What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the KB Knives Ishtar. Now, the Ishtar is in via the Lefty passasround group, and it is part of a little KB package, including the Ishtar as well as the Pioneer. So if you guys are interested in this knife, I will be doing my full review on it the next video after this one, so definitely stay tuned for that. But the Ishtar is a interesting little knife. Right off the rip, I'm gonna say it's not my style aesthetically, but literally everything else, fit and finish, the build quality. You guys know I'm a big fan of KB Knives, and they have just KB, Kubi, whatever you want to call them. You know, they have just really upped their game when it comes to just what I just said. You know, fit and finish, build quality. They make a very high quality knife for a pretty good price. They have a lot of very competitively priced items, I think. And I've always thought that they've, you know, competitively priced their knives compared to some other companies. You know, for what you get, I think it's a great bang for your buck. And yeah, this, like I said, is the Ishtar. So jumping right into the review, this is a Max to Chuck design. I think that's how you pronounce Tick Chuck. It's an M390 blade. It is it's technically a straight back blade, but it kind of has like a trailing point to it. Nice big belly. You have a hole and a fuller for deployment there. I'd say medium blade stock thickness, but then comes down to a decently thin edge. You have titanium handle scales, KB logo right there. This has some speed holes in it. Obviously you have the flamed sort of tiger stripe ano. It is a frame lock with a reversible, it just goes into that screw there, which is nice. A reversible, choking over my spit today. A reversible titanium pocket clip that is anodized to match the rest of the scales, and obviously a backspacer too that is matched and anodized as well. Frame lock, you get a nice bit of lock bar access there, a little bit of jimping to catch your thumb on. Yeah, I mean, it's a clean looking knife. Again, not my cup of tea when it comes to aesthetics. It's kind of like a Persian style blade and handle, and again, just not my sort of design, but it's very comfortable in hand, which we'll touch on later. And I like everything else about the knife. So jumping into some specs. So overall length from tip to butt, we're talking about 7.87 inches. We have a handle length or a closed length of 4.33. We have a blade length just over 3.5 at 3.54. And it comes in weighing 3.28 ounces, which is nice considering this is a titanium frame lock. But of course you have these speed holes on the one side here, so that reduces quite a bit of weight. Give you guys some size comparisons, of course, between my TRM Neutron 2 and then my Spyderco Para 3. You can see it's definitely bigger than both of those knives. These have around 3 inches on the blade, where this is 3.5. So if you were to bump the blades up to be, you know, right on each other, you can see this has a good bit of a more tip on it. So if you guys are interested in, you know, checking it out. And then there are 2 other variations, and I will leave a link in the description down below to KB Knives website. All 3 are currently in stock, which is cool. You have this version with the Tiger ano. You have a plain tie with a sandblast blade, and then you have a completely blacked out black tie with a DLC or a PVD coated blade. And like I said, they're all currently in stock. No, I take that back. I apologize. This version is actually out of stock. I had to update the page because I had it pulled up from a couple days ago. This one is currently out of stock, but the other 2, which I'm not the biggest fan of Tiger ano or, you know, Lightning ano. I think, you know, this one's not too bad. It's kind of nice and subtle. But I would probably choose one of the other 2 if I was going with this model. But yeah, talking about action real quick. So obviously we have the hole for deployment. We have the fuller. You can middle finger flick off of the hole like so, or off of the fuller, you just drop down. I find, you know, the hole to be a little bit more satisfying on this, you know, kind of the thwack you get. Not super duper acoustic, obviously, because, you know, it's losing a lot of sound from those speed holes. but the detent is really nice. Of course, you can thumb flick it pretty well. You just shove the pad of your thumb right down into that hole there, and it fires right on out. Again, middle finger flick is nice. You can slow roll it as long as you don't have too much pressure on the lock bar. Yeah, thumb flick's really nice. Reverse flick is money. The detent, like, that's a huge thing when it comes to Kubi and KB that I've noticed, is just how well they nail the detents. They really have it down to a science, and they are able to consistently get really snappy, strong detents that are, you know, fun to play with. Then of course you have the frame lock, a little bit of jimping there, a little bit of kind of scalloping, drops to your thumb, one shake. I don't know if you guys can see, my thumb is just beat up right in that corner. I nicked myself like 3 times, and then I kind of cut it a little bit at work, and it's just going through the ringer right now. So it's a little bit of pain, but I'm trying to you know, plow through for you guys. It's very nice and smooth. No blade play, locked up really nice and tight. Drops to your thumb, one shake. Drops to your thumb, some micro shakes. It's on bearings. Just a very smooth, clean action, both open and close. Very, very happy with how those have, you know, felt in hand during my time with the, excuse me, Ishtar. Next up is Ergos. Ergos are also really, really good. As much as I'm not a fan of this aesthetic personally, it's a very, very comfortable design. You kind of have like a pistol grip here with this handle, just the way it's tapered off here towards the back. It's very, very comfortable in hand. You guys can see in my left hand. And I can get all 4 fingers in this knife very, very easily. Have a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a tail sticking out there. A little bit of jimping up top there. Nothing too aggressive, but you know, nice enough to get a little bit extra grip there on your thumb. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously skinny through here, and it tapers and gets a little bit fatter as the, you know, the butt goes. But it's just a very, very comfortable, you know, very locked in grip. You of course have the milled titanium pocket clip that is, you know, nice and flat, no sharp edge or anything like that. Just melts into the hand really well. You do have this sort of landing choil up here, so you can choke up a little bit. Thumb can either land here on the jimping, or it can land out here even further if you're going to be doing push cuts, or, you know, whatever you may be doing. Just gives you that extra grip. Again, super duper comfortable, very, very nice. The titanium, you know, there's no sharp edges. It's, you know, a little bit chamfered, a little bit rounded on all the edges, which is really nice. Just kind of a nice subtle little touch there that I love when companies do. And yeah, I mean, switch it around if you had to utilize this in like a, you know, self-defense manner. This thing is really, really comfortable as well. You get a nice, you know, wide, for lack of a better term, a nice wide butt back here to land your thumb on for, you know, if you have to slice or stab or whatever you have to do. You know, obviously this is not meant to be a self-defense knife, and a lot of knives aren't, but in a situation you might have to defend yourself, it's nice knowing that this is capable of having, you know, a really comfortable grip for anything you need to do. I feel like this is, you know, locked in there really nice and tight, and just a little bit of a bonus when it comes to ergos. But yeah, really, really comfortable knife, and happy with how the ergonomics turned out with the Ishtar. Next up is, I don't know why I clapped like that. Next up is carryability. And I will say, for a milled titanium clip, it is long. I would have loved to seen it a little bit shorter, but I guess I get that because of the relief cut there and the lock bar. But it does carry really deep in the pocket for, you know, a milled titanium clip. Get it over my hank here. If I can get it over, there we go. A little bit of a trouble there. But aesthetically, I think that looks really good. Obviously, that's just the design of the knife. You know, the design of the handles for it being pointing and sticking out of there. But as you guys can see, I mean, besides that, like if you take off the pointiness, like that's a pretty deep carry for a milled clip. So I really like that. The Pioneer is the same way. You guys can see it, you know, it goes pretty deep in the pocket. So I was really pleased with both of those. Of course, you have no flipper tab, no jimping, anything like that possibly can catch on your pocket. It's really, you know, relatively slim, which is nice. Sits down in the pocket real well. And the way this kind of pushes, you know, when it drops into the pocket, you know, comes down and it kind of pushes itself into the corner, which is really nice. You know, it's relatively lightweight at 3.28 ounces, it said. It is I believe that's a reversible. I mean, I don't think that I think this just sits on top. So I think that that should be a reversible clip. However, I could be wrong on that. I'm gonna check and see if it says on the website, because I could be completely wrong. No, it just says tip upright. So I guess I was wrong on that. For some reason, I thought it would fit right there on that screw head, but I guess I'm wrong. So I guess right hand only, but that makes sense. It is a frame lock. But all in all, very, very good knife to carry. No issues, no complaints, nothing like that. So that leads me to my final category, which is price point and would I recommend this knife? So like I said, you know, a couple times in this video already, for me personally, just not a big fan of the aesthetic of this knife. You know, I've never really been into, I consider this to be kind of like a Persian style blade, just kind of a trailing point, you know, this way to where the scales go this way. So me personally, I would not go for one of these. However, everything else I've been very, very impressed with. I mean, like I expected to. I mean, it's a KB knife, it's a Kubi knife. You know, the action, the fit and finish is phenomenal. Very comfortable ergonomics. You know, Max designed a really comfortable knife to both carry and use, which is awesome. And I think the price point is pretty reasonable, you know, pretty close to a value here. You're talking $220 for all three variations, which when you're considering titanium, M390, you know, great ergos, great carryability, you know, fit and finish is spot on. I think $220 is great. I mean, there are companies that'll charge you well above that for the materials you're getting on here. And I just, you know, I would be comfortable spending probably up to like $250, $275 for a KB. It's really nice that we're able to get them at the prices they offer them to. So yeah, I mean, I like the knife, and I will just say, you know, if you like the design, then I can recommend it to you. I mean, that's kind of how I am, you know, when it comes to, it's been kind of funny because there's been, you know, a handful of knives over the past 6 months to a year, you know, designs that I'm not a big fan of knives that have come across the channel from the pass around that are, you know, included in a package to where I'm more interested on, you know, these other knives or other specific knife. But I review it anyway, obviously for content and for, you know, for my own personal gain. And although I'm not the biggest fan of the design, the knife is just so well made. You know, I still want to recommend it to people that just like these style of knives, and that's where I'm at with the Ishtar. And I mean, I just feel like that from other designs that I have seen from Max. I just think, I mean, obviously that he has a design style, and you know, some of his stuff I do like off the top of my head if I think I'm thinking of the right one. And again, this isn't, I will say this isn't anything out of, you know, it's not uber crazy. It's just crazy enough for me not to, you know, personally love the way it looks, if that makes any sense to you guys. But all in all, really like the knife, really happy with how it looked, with how it felt, you know, and everything about it I was a big fan of, you know, obviously just except for, you know, the aesthetic just not being my cup of tea. But I think we've already established that enough, guys. But yeah, so this was my full review on the KB Knives Ishtar. Huge shout out to Kev over at Lefty DC for always allowing us to check out the coolest stuff. Huge shout out to you guys as well. Please leave a comment down below if any of you guys have added the Ishtar to your collection. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know. And yeah, guys, I'm going to wrap this up now. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, day, night, whenever you're watching this. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.